Ohio State, once again, a deadline winner. It's Roster Management Monday on the Podcast Daily. That's Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. I didn't think they could do it again. Once you win a national championship, some of the financial equations and motivations change, but their Ohio State win again.
Yesterday's price is not today's price, as they say.
Yeah. Opening up the checkbook and keeping some key pieces around, and I don't think there's any way you can look at Friday, Saturday, Championship Sunday with the roster itself and not think that Ohio State came out well ahead of where I thought it was going to be.
Pretty good, yeah. Like it would have been almost understandable by some extent if it weren't the case. I mean, it is quite literally the cost of doing business now. Like, this is what college football has become, so you have to remain competitive even when you do win a national title, and those numbers probably do go up, and the conversations probably change quite a bit from what you were expecting heading into the offseason. But yeah, I thought they did great. I don't know what among them was like most important, but I think just like not having a total roster teardown, like kind of says we know it's turning over, right? They're losing a ton of defensive talent. Like, we were all aware that was going to happen, but it just could have been a much larger makeover job than it's going to be, which is tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, we've listened to the national media and pundits talk about that $20 million for the 2024 roster ad nauseum in the last 8 months. And I'm going to tell you straight up, like, based on what we
a bargain.
What we know about
an absolute bargain.
What's moving forward, I'm going to tell you that there's a quarter of that in two players.
Where do you see the numbers of the teams that are trying to chase Ohio State?
So it is for those people out there who are like, oh, I missed the old college football. Like, it is gone and dead. Like, it is never coming back. But Ohio State obviously is in a position to offer kids something more, and that's what we talked about last week, is that eventually when everyone's offering the same amount of money, then we go back almost, we revert to the old ways of like, well, now you get development, now you get coaching, now you get, NFL opportunities, etc. So the Buckeyes are looking at it from that perspective and saying, hey, we can still offer this stuff. And whatever happens with Jim Knowles, or if it's already happened by the time this records, who knows?
What hasn't happened by the time we recorded it?
By the time this airs, yeah. My nose is so cold, it's seeping into my brain. We are looking at a team that is primed and ready, I think, to actually be a title repeat contender, which that's, again, going to, I think, a lot of the same conversations we had about this team last year, which was in January. Like, well, if they can get a championship effort out of the quarterback, they can win it all. And so now you look at this current roster and everyone who's returning, and you can, I think, arguably make that conversation again.
I think the thing that, sorry to cut you off, Austin, the thing that like would be most reassuring to me, and it was obviously not done on the same scale this offseason, but it is now back-to-back off seasons of Ohio State demonstrating an ability to do the thing that I think will be most important, which is keep guys who are going to be like 4th, 5th, 6th round picks,
right,
and have them come back. That is going to be the secret sauce in all of this. And Ohio State did it better than anybody last year. And with the guys they had to do it with this year, they did it.
Well, they didn't have a whole lot of needs. Austin and I talked about this on Friday's show on the Podcast Daily while you were in Amsterdam. And I want to get your opinion. Who, now that you have the glory of hindsight here, I guess. So we said Carson Hinsman and Sonny Styles maybe as the two most important guys to make sure didn't end up somewhere else, whether it be the NFL or in a transfer portal.
To be clear, I chose Sonny because I did not want to step on your offensive line.
I said Carson Hinsman and Sonny Styles because I did want to step on your toes because you were in another country. Not even know if you were going to come back.
Neither did I.
So who are the guys from your perspective, Bill, just from a purely football roster building standpoint that we excluded Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs from this conversation? Who are the guys that felt like the most vital for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably just echo you guys. I would say Sonny for a couple of reasons. Like, one, you just want that stability on your defense. I think he becomes a very obvious Block O candidate, leadership, all that stuff.
They could give it to him right now.
They could, but also if
makes it easier to give Devin Sanchez the number 6 he wants.
There you go. If we're going to entertain a world maybe where Ohio State is going to be a little more multiple with his defense too, like Sonny Styles feels like a guy who can kind of roam around and play a couple different positions for you too. So I would say him first. I honestly don't know that I would have said Carson Hinson without you mentioning it just now, but that's clearly a big one to solidify the center position, and he was very good when he got thrown in that position. If for as good as I think Devin Sanchez will be, I think it's nice to lock in Jermaine Matthews and keep him in the fold and see what that becomes as a starting cornerback now in this defense. So I mean, I don't know, they're all important, but I think Sonny would be number one for me for sure.
My read on the situation, and it certainly sounded this way in the build-up to Friday and Saturday, was that, like, given the amount of money that was potentially at play for Jermaine Matthews and Davis Igbinosun, that's an either or situation. You couldn't lose both. You had to have one. And somehow Ohio State was able to find a way to keep both. Now, Davison fits in the same category of Denzel Burke a year ago or Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau. He was not going to get a first-round grade. There's a lot of things on film that would give pause to NFL talent evaluators. So if you're going to be a third or fourth round pick and Ohio State can get in the ballpark of what your rookie deal may be, or potentially even better, I think that's the spot where they're really winning here. They've sort of crafted this blueprint that they're not going to pay up front unless it's a rare exception, a Jeremiah Smith type person. They are not, we just mentioned this when we were down in Knoxville, whenever that was, 7 months ago before the national championship game, that they're not going to pay $2 million to high school kids who are a couple of years out. Jeremiah Smith was obviously an exception because he was going to come in and help right away. It is so much smarter. We've made this point almost every offseason, Berm, that if you can pay, you do that for guys who are veteran players. They've been developed in your program. They know your system. And Ohio State is capitalizing on that. It may have taken one or two cycles for that to really sink in or to really pay off, but now you just show it. You're coming here. You're going to be rewarded in the long haul, both in terms of how you prepare for the next level and what the opportunities you have to compete while you're at Ohio State.
Yeah, and to steal a line from Urban Meyer, it's testimony versus theory now. You've seen, if you're a high school wide receiver, if let's say you're Chris Henry Jr. out there in California, the number one ranked receiver in the country in the class of 2026, he's still considering Oregon, and as he's committed to Ohio State, Oregon, and others. If you see that Jeremiah Smith was willing to go this path, do you really say to yourself, well, I'm too good for that. I can't do it. If you see Devin Sanchez willing to come in here, I've heard how much money Oregon and others were offering him to try to get him to flip away from Ohio State. If you see the path, you can be, hey, if those guys can do it, I can do it. And I'm willing to do it. And I see the value in doing it. And that's what Ryan Day and these coaches have done a really excellent job in proving out to kids over the last couple of years. Is you're going to get your money. We'll go to Carnell Tate here. Carnell Tate was offered a lot of money by Tennessee when he was a senior in high school and chose to come to Ohio State, chose to take the harder path, and now he's getting a lot of money to play at Ohio State. And then he's still going to get that first-round development at wide receiver. So it is the right way. It's not always going to feel good to people on the recruiting side because you're going to see Ohio State maybe miss on some guys that fans are like, we definitely have to have this player. And if anything has been proven in the last 2 years, it's that you can go out and find Josh Simmons at San Diego State, a guy that people around the country are laughing at Ohio State for projecting as their offensive tackle, including people on this beat. Maybe not you. And I was pointing to Doug. He's over there somewhere.
I think I laughed.
Doug,
I wanted to make sure that finger wasn't.
I was circumspect.
But now you're Ohio State, and you can say, look, he's a first-round draft pick. And so now what? This is definitely the right approach, but it doesn't matter because eventually these rosters are still going to get to $40, $50 million anyway, even taking this approach because there's no guardrails.
It'd be cool if there were some rules so that doesn't happen. That seems like a foolish way for people to spend all their money. What do I know? I think the Carnell Tate, if there was anybody, Byrne, that we were skeptical of returning on Friday because of the amounts of money. And again, we tried to make this point that
can't blame
it wasn't going to be a football decision. It wasn't going to be, lack of faith in development or lack of faith in Brian Hartline, because that blueprint is also pretty well documented. It's just you have generational bags of cash being dropped out that are hard to say no to. So I thought it was more likely than not that Ohio State would lose Carnell Tate. Again, it's another notch in the pro column. This used to be a late January conversation, and it would be solely about the NFL draft deadline. That's really not the conversation anymore. Sometimes, and maybe more often than not moving forward, the best work that Mark Pantoni and Ryan Day and the collectives and Ross Bjork and everybody else, Logan Hiddle and everybody who's involved, the best work that they're going to do is with the players who maybe fit in both categories, NFL draft deadline, but also transfer portal. And Ohio State, unequivocally in my mind, one, Quinshon Judkins could have come back. Somehow Jordan Hancock would have been allowed to return, but there was, I don't know. It said in his bio that he had another year of eligibility.
I don't think he had I think he had a redshirt year based on injuries in 2022.
Okay. However it works out, I don't know, because eligibility is also not a thing. There's no guardrails for that anymore either. Technically they could have, kept those two pieces, but Ohio State didn't really expect to, with good reason. And Quinshon accomplished what he wanted to. Jordan Hancock already could have been an NFL player last year. So I set those aside in a different way. Those decisions they weren't 50-50 and Ohio State lost. All the ones that they could have lost, I feel like they won, and a couple of them I didn't expect them to.
It was around the time that Quinshon Judkins was delivering a forearm shiver at the 9-yard line in the national championship, where I was like, okay, he's probably not going to come back. That was one that I never expected. So I'm with you. I don't hold Ohio State to that one. And frankly, like after the Rose Bowl, I was like, man, it's going to suck when Carnell Tate leaves. So for them to figure that one out is really impressive. Like there are, as with this is the case with a lot of these situations, like the football will like point you to like why would you want to leave? But like I understand the money talks, and Ohio State has to remain competitive with that, even when sometimes it might be a little uncomfortable to do so. And I think it will become increasingly more comfortable as we go through this. But that was a big one too. I didn't mean to leave that one unmentioned. And boy, with all the attention that Jeremiah Smith's going to get next year, I think Carnell Tate stands a pretty good chance of delivering on that financial promise.
We don't talk politics here, obviously, but there was a lot of.
There
was a lot.
Well, we'll see you later.
There was a lot of memes and tweets about Dark Brandon in the last couple of years. When he put on the sunglasses and he'd be like, "This
Dark Ryan,
this version of Ryan Day." Have you guys ever watched The Boys on Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
No. He's like Butcher. He's like Butcher Ryan. He just looks like him up there.
You're just looking at the beard.
No, it's the jacket, it's the beard, it's the freeness in which he like. We are seeing, and we didn't talk about it on Snap Judgments on Sunday at all. Like Ryan Day without 10,000 pounds on his shoulders might be a real problem for college football.
Well, especially because I think there's an element where, because of what Bill said and what you're talking about now, the weight is off. Ohio State could have said, you know what? It was expensive last year and it was a grind. 2025, losing all these seniors, maybe we don't need to spend that much money moving forward. But again, somebody tells us all the time that the standard is the standard. They did not back down. They are not just saying, well, that's it. We can wait another decade or for the next time that the playoff expands and we'll win that one. Like they're going right back at this. Right. And I think that's remarkable.
The Carnell Tate situation is one where there were people who were willing to say, maybe it's not. And then there was Butcher Day. He was like, nope, we back.
Yeah.
And he ended his statement on Sunday afternoon saying, let's go get another one of these. And it seems pretty clear that Ohio State has an idea of now what it takes. I'm going to spin out again. I'm going to spin to another. While we're just talking about guys who was like really important that are back, at least through the spring. We talked to Lincoln Kienholz out at the Rose Bowl. Mm-hmm. To have him staying with this roster and being willing to compete for the quarterback job through the spring, maybe we haven't talked about it enough because we're not projecting ahead really yet, but that seems like it's another guy that's very important.
But I think there are others that we wouldn't immediately come to mind as like frontline starters that Ohio State would have wanted or needed to keep. And, we have talked about Sonny Styles and Jermaine Matthews and Davis Igbenos. And so the secondary or the back seven of this defense is in a much better spot than it could have been. But up front, you are replacing Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, Tyleik Williams, and Ty Hamilton. So somebody like CJ Hicks could very well be a part of that conversation as well. And, fair or not, he is always brought up as, he hasn't played enough. Is he going to transfer out? Can Ohio State keep him? He's here today, and he still looks like he's incredibly confident. He's another person we talked about during full team media days on the Notebook. And it sure feels like he's going to be someone who fits into that multiple role and can do Jack stuff. Like it'll finally happen. I don't know who the defensive coordinator is going to be definitively at this point as we stand here, but keeping him in the program is critical for both, whether that's continuing to do linebacker things or moving up front to help a defensive line that's going to be in transition. There are players like CJ Hicks
or Kenyatta
Jackson and Caden Curry that are critical components here, where also they were going to have a bunch of schools lining up and trying to, entice them into the portal or elsewhere. And Ohio State retained those guys too. That shouldn't be, I think, overlooked in this conversation and just focusing solely on the stars.
Is the window at least temporarily closed on adding a Tristan Gebbia style individual to the quarterback room?
No, I mean there's still about 1,500 transfer players out there that have not found a home. The question is what Ohio State does moving forward, because Ohio State, obviously, just like every other school in the country, there's back channels to have conversations with people. If
There
you want.
are?
Yeah, believe it or not. If you're interested,
Someone told Landon
What?
Tegwall.
if you're interested in that, there are ways
Make
to
the
get
graphic.
there are
Tamper.
there are ways to get messages out there. If Ohio State feels like it's going to need not just a veteran, but if they feel like they need somebody who can come in and play quarterback, if they don't see what they want out of Julian Sand or Lincoln Keenall, like there's still time for things to change, guys in or out. So the bottom line is that there's never like a stop on anything. It is continuous. It is continual. It is continually stupid. But there is no slowdown. It's just we get like a week because the coaches have to go on the road right now recruiting until Sunday, and then they get a month off from that. And so maybe that's when the real celebration finally happens around here. But
Did they give them like stand-in championship rings so they can wear those when they walk into high school?
I don't think so.
They should just all bring those like giant novelty rings they were giving
should.
out, just like wear it on their hand.
Yeah, or put it on a chain
Yeah.
like those celebratory necklaces that folks are wearing. I don't know. They'll figure
The
out some way.
Hulk gloves.
Yeah, there you go.
I got Hulk hands.
These are all great ideas. I think they can execute it. When you think about continually stupid, that's how we get to the end of the podcast daily. We're
You're
going to
welcome.
keep covering Ohio State all year round. We're heading on to the 2025 season. It's cold out here. This one was recorded on Sunday at the celebration at the
We're
Horseshoe.
not going to lie about this anymore, America.
We really couldn't hide it because we're shivering out here. I don't know. We could probably talk about the roster more, but we have all week and really all of February to do that as well before spring practice starts, when hopefully it'll be warmer in Columbus. But either way, we'll be out there. That's Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. Thanks for starting your week with us on the Podcast Daily with some Roster Management Monday. See ya.